I'd like to call the regular town meeting for August 12th, 2025. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call?
Mayor Kurtzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrell?
Here.
Commissioner Pinder?
Here.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Here.
Commissioner Tippett?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, we have proclamation and presentations. We're going to start with the swearing in of Officer Mark Patterson. Come on up.
Mark Patterson is a native Floridian. He's married and resides in Jensen Beach with his wife, stepson, and daughter. He attended the police academy in Miami and earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Florida Atlantic University. He began his career with the North Miami Police Department, serving for 3 years before joining the Boca Raton Police Department, where he served for 22 years, serving as the rank of sergeant, a position he held for the last 9 years of his career. Today, I have the honor of conducting a ceremonial swearing in of Officer Patterson as a member of the Sewall Point Police Department. This occasion marks not only the start of his new role here, but also the beginning of what we hope will be a long commitment to service, integrity, and courage within our town. Officers are called upon to act with strength in times of crisis and with compassion in moments of vulnerability. That balance is the hallmark of a truly great officer. Having personally spent the first week of Officer Patterson's employment alongside him, I have full confidence in his capabilities, and I'm proud to have him as a coworker. I am certain his actions will reflect the highest standards of justice and humanity in our community. Mark, may your second career be filled with purpose, growth, and deep satisfaction, knowing that you're making a difference here in the town. I'd like to now call forward Megan and Nathan, who will be pinning on his badge this evening. I'd like to step forward. You just hold on to that for a minute. We'll now be administering 2 oaths today. The first, feel free to make yourself comfortable. Seriously. We'll be administering 2 oaths today. The first is the oath of office taken by all police officers affirming their commitment to faithfully perform their duties and uphold the law. The second is the loyalty oath, which is required by Florida Statute 876.05, which must be taken by all individuals employed in positions funded by public funds. You ready, Mark? All right, let's raise your hand. I,
Mark Patterson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will,
that I will,
during my continuance in office,
during my continuance in office,
to the best of my skill and ability,
to the best of my skill and ability,
faithfully discharge
faithfully discharge
all duties
all duties
which may be required of me,
which may be required of me,
and that I will,
and that I will,
in all cases, conform to the ordinances
conform to the ordinances
of the town of Sewall Point
of the town of Sewall Point
and its police regulations.
and its police regulations.
I will, without partiality,
I will, without partiality,
faithfully enforce
faithfully enforce
the ordinances of the town of Sewall Point
the ordinances of the town of Sewall Point
and all laws,
and all laws,
and will uphold the Constitution
and will uphold the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Florida.
and the state of Florida.
I,
Mark Patterson,
a citizen of the state of Florida
a citizen of the state of Florida
and of the United States of America,
and the United States of America,
and being employed by
and being employed by
or an official of
or an official of
the town of Sewall Point
the town of Sewall Point,
and a recipient of public funds,
and a recipient of public funds,
as such employee
as such employee
or officer,
or officer,
do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Florida.
and of the state of Florida.
Congratulations.
Medic.
I want to thank Chief Chickanowski and the town of Sewell's Point for giving me this opportunity. I also want to thank my wife, Megan, because I know she has the harder job being a stay-at-home mom with our two children. Knowing she is there makes it easy for me to be focused and come to work. And as for the rest of my family and friends, I love and cherish you. Thank you for the support. Thank you.
All right, next on the proclamation and presentations is the introduction of Kim Stanton, our new administrative assistant.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm proud to bring forward our newest addition to our staff. Kim Stanton was born and raised in Florida, a resident of Martin County for the past 39 years. She's got 4 children, and as young as she looks, she's got 2 grandchildren. She's lived in North River Shores for 13 years, was a past resident of Sewell's Point for 23 years, and is currently living in Stewart. Things that are most important is her faith, family, country, friends, and now the residents and businesses of Sewell's Point. Her professional background is a legal administrative assistant, bookkeeping. She was the personal assistant to the late Frances Langford and her foundation for 17 years, and she most recently was the town clerk at Ocean Breeze for the past 3 years. So she has the experiences and the qualities that we were looking for, and she's working now as an administrative assistant, getting our processes down, and we hope to see good things of her in the future. So Kim, would you like to stand up? And I'm going to ask the chief to come forward with her oath. She just has one. So.
Unless you want to be a cop.
No, I don't. I feel like I've been a cop in my life.
I do want to say, I don't know how much you folks realize this, but this entire building, we all work together hand in hand. There is no not my job inside this building, and it really has been a pleasure already working with Kim, and she's really has melded into the team so much, which is really terrific to see. So, all right, if you would raise your right hand, please. I,
Kim Stanton,
a citizen of the state of Florida
a citizen of the state of Florida
and of the United States of America,
and of the United States of America,
and being employed by
and being employed by
or an officer of
or an officer of
and a recipient of public funds,
and a recipient of public funds,
as such employee or officer,
and as such employee or officer,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida.
and of the state of Florida.
Congratulations. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone. Everyone has been so kind and welcoming to me. Everybody's been so generous and just patient. It's because I'm learning a lot of new programs. So the concepts are there. It's just the understanding your policies and procedures here. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank
Pleasure
you.
having you here. Next up for proclamations and resolutions is Captain Henry Sewell's Day.
Yay.
We'll ask the clerk to please read the proclamation.
Before the mayor of the town of Sewell's Point, Martin County, Florida, a proclamation, Captain Henry Sewell's Day in Sewell's Point, Florida. Whereas Captain Henry Edwin Sewell came from a family of seafarers and sailed around the world several times on the Benjamin Sewall. And whereas in 1889, Captain Sewall arrived on the peninsula to claim the Sewall's family portion of the Hanson Grant and established the town's first post office on May 12, 1891, serving as postmaster until 1915. And whereas in 1892, Captain Sewall was among the local leaders involved in opening the St. Lucie Inlet and continued his efforts in getting the U.S. government to improve the depth of the access point for trades. And whereas Captain Sewall served as a Dade County Commissioner in 1893, representing Sewall's Point, and was a state representative in the Florida legislature from 1894 to 1895. And whereas without the significant contributions of Captain Henry Sewall, the town of Sewall's Point may not have existed and become the flourishing exclusive enclave it is today. Now therefore, I, Dave Kurzman, Mayor of the town of Sewall's Point, Florida, do hereby proclaim August 22nd, 2025 as Captain Henry Sewall's Day in Sewall's Point in honor of all his accomplishments, dated this 12th day of August 2025.
And I think we have the Neff family here with us, descendants of Captain Sewall. And Sandra Thurlow, would you please come up as well?
Proclamation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, sure. I have to honor him. Thank you so much. We really appreciate this. It's nice to know that he's always remembered. Thank you. Oh, yes. You too.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, thank you.
Next up is financial statement audit, James Moore.
Let me get your PowerPoint up. I had it, but lost it, so.
No worries. Thank you. As he gets that pulled up, good evening, everyone. I'm Spencer Machuga. I'm an audit supervisor, CPA with James Moore & Company, and I'll be presenting the town's financial statement audit for fiscal year 2024. Get that pulled up. And before I get started, I just want to say a couple quick thank yous. First, thank you to Maria and her team for all the timely responses to all our audit requests, resulting in a smooth audit process. We really appreciate that.
Thank you for your patience.
Absolutely. As well as thank you to the members of the commission for engaging our firm to perform the town's financial statement audit this year. The next slide. So my first slide, I just want to highlight some of the auditor's reports that can be located in the financial statements. That first one being the independent audit report, which can be found on the first few pages of the financial statements. The main thing I want to highlight there is that we issued an unmodified opinion, which is essentially saying we believe the financial statements presented to you are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and it is the best opinion that we can issue on financial statements. The next report I want to highlight is found towards the end of the financial statements. It's the report on internal control and compliance, which can be found on pages 29 through 30. The main thing I want to highlight there is that during our audit, we identified no material weaknesses, essentially saying that not only did we not identify any deficiencies in internal control, but there were no deficiencies that we would believe could potentially result in a material misstatement. And then the preceding few pages, pages 31 through 32, you can find the management letter required by Chapter 10.10.5. And again, noting that we have no findings or recommendations during our audit procedures. There was one prior year comment regarding the timing of recording grant revenues, and we identified no similar issues during our financial statement audit. Therefore, the comment has been corrected from the previous year. I always like to highlight that this is a financial statement audit with the main objective being to present an opinion on the financial statements as a whole rather than looking at each individual transaction. You can go, so.
Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. Looking at the wrong person. On the next slide, we just kind of highlight the history of the general fund balance and for the current year compared to the 2 previous years. The main thing to note there is that the total general fund balance increased about $640,000. There was about a $400,000 increase in the committed fund balance, and this is related to funds committed for fire services that was approved by the Commission through Resolution 975. In that 1.9 in committed funds, there's also $1 million for disaster reserve as well as $500,000 for operating reserve as well. The next slide is highlighting a couple key things on the general fund as well. The total unassigned/signed fund balance was about $1.6 million at year end. Total expenditures in the general fund for 2024 were about $3.1 million. Leaving at a percentage ratio of about 51%, which is very strong, as the GFOA recommends a minimum of 2 months or around 16.7%. So the town's ratio exceeds that ratio significantly. On this next slide, just hitting again on the history of the net position over the past few years compared to the current year. Total net position increased by about $1.2 million. The increase in the capital portion of about $8.6 million at year end is primarily related to 2 capital projects. One, the Sewell's Point Road project, as well as the septic to sewer project. And then for the restricted amount of $2.6 million, in addition to the amounts mentioned in the general fund, these relates to amounts restricted for future capital projects, as well as amounts restricted for the building department. That kind of covers the main things I wanted to hit on this presentation. I'll open the floor for any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we probably need a motion to accept the auditor's report.
Commissioner Fender.
I'll make a motion to accept the auditor's report. I thought it was clean and
I'll
one of the
second.
best I've seen since I've been on dice.
Roll call. We have a first and a second from Commissioner Mayfield.
Mayor Person,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Fender,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus.
Yeah.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Nice job.
Safe travels.
Next, we have comments, and Mrs. Hooker, please come on up to the mic.
Hello. My name is Alice Hooker, and I live at 6 Morgan Circle. And we had a BZA meeting on July 24th, and I'm going to read you code 82-128. It's appeals. If an applicant wishes to appeal the decision, he or she is required to deliver a written notice of appeal to the town manager within 15 days of the written decision of the Board of Zoning Adjustment. The hearing on the appeal will be scheduled at the next available town commission meeting. Okay, I was told that the written decision normally takes about 1 to 2 weeks, but however, it's been, hasn't been issued yet, and it's been nearly 3 weeks. And I'm just here to inform you that once it is received, that we will immediately file an appeal to you. So, I'm nervous. We feel there are still codes violated that were not considered in the conclusion of the meeting, and we would like to address them. The properties on the river have special rules to preserve the shoreline and vegetation. Also, based on our review, the proposed construction at 7 Morgan Circle does not conform to the common plan of development customarily found in the area as defined by the municipal code. With that said, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda? I'm sorry.
Commissioner Titicus.
I would like to pull out of the consent agenda item B in terms of revised commission meeting calendar. There is no separate time set apart for reviewing the budget. And I think that, considering the length of the budget, it's 20-some pages long, that deserves a separate discussion.
I think as a matter of record, you can pull it off the consent agenda and then you discuss that matter of modifying the calendar. So, and so I think your motion of accepting the agenda with the modifications would be in order. And then we'd need a second.
So I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, removing 1B from the consent agenda.
And I'll second.
Roll call.
Vice Mayor Burrell?
Yes.
Commissioner Bender?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, I believe we go to B to visit the calendar.
Do we need to approve
Uh,
the consent agenda?
I think we have to.
We have to do the consent agenda, right?
Now that
Yeah.
it's modified, we have to
sorry.
actually
No, it's modified, so.
accept it.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second, again?
Roll call.
Commissioner Bender?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrell?
Yes.
Okay, I guess now we go to the revised calendar, which is 1D.
One, they're not marked here. Let's see.
So if I may, I think previously, I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before, but when I met with Commissioner Titicus yesterday, he brought this to my attention, and his preference is we can't start the meeting until 5:05. It has to be after 5 o'clock, but having the meeting before we do the commission meeting for the budget. And it's a decision that you all have to make.
It's on
Do I
September
say that correctly?
Is that,
That would be on September 11th.
Yeah, it's September 11th is the one change that we made. I think everybody was accepting. And then the other one, we're back to the Monday schedule. The original one had us on Tuesday, but again, we can't have a meeting scheduled the same time as the school board or the county commission. So,
Commissioner Mayfield.
so you're saying the change you want to make to this meeting calendar is to start the meeting on Thursday at 5:05, or like essentially?
Yeah, I'm either that Thursday or another time during the week. When you sit down and you go through the budget, you take a look at it. It's a very detailed document that requires, I think, more time than just shoehorning it into a regular meeting.
You're talking, because we're talking about it tonight, correct?
I believe
Yeah.
Ms. Pierce is planning on presenting them.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm not against it. I'm just saying, I thought it was in the agenda tonight, but it's no difference to me whether we meet at 5:05 or 6 on the 11th. I don't really.
Doesn't matter here either.
Good.
Well, then, can I make a motion
Yeah.
that
You sure
set
can.
the next meeting for a budget hearing for September 11th at 5 o'clock?
It has to be 5:05, correct?
yes, we have to have it after 5. So,
I was waiting.
All
I
right,
remember that from prior years.
I'll second 5:05.
Thank you.
Roll call.
I just want to make,
Yeah, and just a reminder, clerk's reminded me that, that's the night you have to adopt the budget. Obviously, you're discussing it tonight. You can discuss it again then, but you have to adopt that night and then on the,
Then on the 22nd.
Right.
Thank you. And the millage rate.
And the millage, and it's kind of important if you want to collect taxes.
Okay, so we have, roll call. Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrell?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank
Okay. Now we go to public hearing ordinance second reading, ordinance number 473-25, stormwater.
Ordinance number 472-25, an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewell Point, Florida, amending Chapter 50.
7-3.
Oh,
7-3.
did I jump ahead? Sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. Ordinance number 473, right. I thought 472 usually comes before 473, but I didn't do good in fourth grade, so. Okay, ordinance 473-25. An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewell Point, Florida, amending Chapter 52, Stormwater Control Regulations, Article 2, Purpose and Intent, Section 52-24, On-Site Retention, subsection B, to require any property that is part of a common plan of development to obtain and comply with the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES, Stormwater Construction Generic Permit, providing for severability, the repeal of laws in conflict, codification, and an effective date.
If I may, just in going through the document, this is the same document that we approved at the last meeting, and is basically required from DEP to meet our licensing requirements to add that verbiage into the ordinance. And other than that, there's been, we haven't made any changes to it, and I don't believe there were any comments that were made at the previous meeting.
The only comment that I had at the last meeting was about how are we going to enforce that? Or is it this is just a matter of paperwork?
Yeah, this is paperwork, and basically DEP enforces it. Yeah, that was a question that did come up, so thank you for reminding me. DEP does the enforcement. We just have to notify everyone when they come in for a permit. If they happen to be in a development, and if that was the case, like the example was India Lucy, it's, even though it was years ago, it was a development, and so if you wanted to do any additions or as we have the tear down mode coming ahead of us, if they decide to tear down a house and rebuild it, they have to do this notification and get this permit from DEP. If they don't get it, it's a DEP issue. It's not a Sewell's Point issue.
So a dry well would be a DEP issue?
Yes.
So you have to get a permit for a dry well?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to check on that. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I'll find out. But this is what we need to come into compliance with our license agreement, so.
Commissioner Fender.
I was just going to make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 473-25.
I got two more. Commissioner Mayfield.
I was going to make a motion, so I'll second that.
Okay, and Commissioner Titicus.
I just have a question, looking for a clarification. There are two copies of this in the packet. And on page 80 and page 83, they're the same, but page 83 is highlighted in red, a phrase that says, or part of a common plan of development. And I was just curious as to why there's two copies and why is one highlighted.
The highlighted one shows the change, adding the words common plan of development, and the other one is just clean. That way you could see what the change was in the red, but the non-red one is just as it is, plain.
So the non-red one is the one that you'd actually be adopting tonight if you vote in favor of adoption.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Fender and a second from Commissioner Mayfield, but I think the Vice Mayor has a question real quick.
Yeah. I'd like to know if we could get that approved first about the dry well situation before we say yes to this, before I say yes to this.
Well, we could. The problem is, if we don't do it, we can't have a permit for our stormwater systems. So, that was one of the things, a couple months ago, I think it was April, if I recall, we had an audit where they actually came down and went through everything, went through all of our paperwork, and that was one of their findings, that our ordinance was lacking that verbiage.
Okay,
So I can find out and report it back.
okay, so we'll just leave it as, okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
See, I'm going to hate myself for asking this, but what if the answer came back that no? You have to have a permit. Well, how would that affect,
Well, that affects a lot of people.
in what way?
Well, I mean, everyone in the Lucy, all 70 homes, if they wanted to put a dry well in individually, they'd have to get an individual permit. And DEP is not known for their speed with approving permits. Okay? I mean, let's face it, we see that happen every day in the town.
Because we want them to be able to get dry well permits quickly? Is that what you're?
Well, yeah, it's, because it helps. You want to keep the water off the street, you want to keep it, the best way to do it is putting a dry well or a French drain or something like that. And I can't see having to get a permit for a French drain. It's nothing more than a 6-inch little ditch with a hose in it, you know what I mean?
Okay. Thanks for clarifying, I appreciate it.
You know, I mean, even a dry well is merely a 5 foot or 4 foot wide and maybe 3 to 4 feet deep. And it's full of rock and it holds a lot of water.
Roll call.
Commissioner Titicus?
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Public hearing, ordinance first reading, ordinance number 472-25, ordinance for FEMA updates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Ordinance 472-25 is an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewell Point, Florida, amending Chapter 50, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 5, Permits, Section 50-86, Permit Application, Section 50-88, Issuing Permits, and adding Section 50-114, Flood Zone Requirements, regarding compliance with FEMA's Substantial Improvement Rule, providing for applicability, enforcement, and penalties, providing for severability, repeal of laws in conflict, codification, and an effective date.
This, just in discussion, and I know when we brought this under first reading, our attorney, Mr. Tercivia, had mentioned that there was a statute that he wanted to research to see if it affected. Basically, what the direction was is to have a 24-month rolling time frame, and the legislation that Tallahassee passed this year basically outlawed any municipality from having any time frame. So theoretically, you could come in just as long as you're under the 50% rule, of your house on your modification or your structure, and complete that project. And then the next day after you complete that project, you can come back and make another request just as long as you're under the 50%. If you're not under the 50%, then they require you to meet the current FEMA standards. Did I say that correctly?
You got it. Nailed it.
Okay. Commissioner Mayfield.
I have a question. Since when this came up before, we were talking about that 2-year plan, and that was what I thought was the crux of the ordinance change. But I see there's new stuff here. Is this just like a clarification of the rule itself that wasn't in our ordinances before? Because there always was the FEMA rule thing. I realize that was more at the federal level, but so is all the stuff that's here just kind of putting the rule that already existed into our ordinances, since the whole 24-month thing isn't happening anymore?
You're talking about the underlying language on page 6? Where it
Yeah,
says
the stuff that we're approving,
Right, so we're saying, no permit may be issued. So those,
because we didn't really have it in our ordinances before, correct? And so that was kind of the question, is it cumulative, or is it just individual project-based? And now we have clarification that it's kind of individual project-based. So is this just to kind of make our ordinances more clear, or?
yes, well, I make it clear that you're not going to get a permit unless, it's
talking about if you're doing more than 50%, that's what
Right.
you're, yes. So it's kind of like putting that rule into,
into an ordinance so that people can see it clearly and not have to go search the Florida statutes.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Titicus.
Yeah, there were two provisions in the ordinance that we had considered before. The one provision was the 24 months, and then the other provision was that we had said that insurance mandated improvements are not included in the calculation. The Florida statute, as it was passed, and where they define substantial improvements, basically prohibits a government. It says that a local government's prohibiting national flood insurance program may not adopt or enforce an ordinance for substantial improvement or repairs to a structure which includes a cumulative substantial improvement period. The Florida statute does not address insurance mandated improvements. And so I would suggest that we include that back in the ordinance that we're going to pass.
We had this conversation a few minutes ago, and it's one of those, is the glass half full or half empty? So the legislature provides a definition of substantial improvements in two places in the statute. They didn't prohibit something, adding something additional. They didn't permit it. So are we allowed to add an additional requirement or additional phrase different than what the statute says? That's, again, that's a flip of the coin. And generally, if the statute says something, that's what it is, and you can't add or take away from it. But you're correct. They don't specifically say that in there, that this is it, end all, be all. Certainly, you couldn't be less than what they have. This is their standard. You couldn't say, for example, they said the total cost does not include base molding. Well, you couldn't add something that says it does include base molding, because they specifically said no. They didn't address at all this issue. So, the more conservative approach is if they don't give authority, especially this legislature, it's not permitted. But if you want to be not that conservative and think that that's important to have, you can always try it. And if it gets challenged, it gets challenged.
I have a, Mayor, can I ask?
Yes, Commissioner Mayfield, please.
So Commissioner Titicus, you're saying that you do not want any insurance mandated changes to the home included as part of the improvement in regard to that 50% limit? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that if an insurance company mandates improvements to the home, it should not be calculated in the 50%. And the reason,
But before, just because I might lose my train of thought, my question there is, I understand the rationale, particularly before when we were talking about cumulative, but now that it's only project per project, it doesn't seem like that big a burden to, I don't know how many insurance mandates are more than 50% of somebody's property, but I feel like that could somewhat easily be separated into two projects. You know what I mean? Like you do your thing and then you do and then they don't have to worry, we don't have to add anything and they don't have a problem. Does that make sense?
the way I read this was that there is no cumulative time period to where the amount rolls off. And so if you have a structure and you're in a floodplain and there's damage to your structure that exceeds 50% of the value, the assessed value of that property, regardless of when it happens, whether it happens in year 1, year 15, that counts against, it goes against the property. And so all I'm saying is that if an insurance company comes in and they say, we want you to put in hurricane windows, hurricane doors, garages, whatever, we want you to buffer up your roof trusses or, buff up your roof trusses, that should not be counted in the calculation. I don't think an insurance company is going to mandate something that is going to degrade the value of the home or make the home more vulnerable, to floods and to hurricanes. And so all I'm saying is we considered this at one point in time, that we say insurance, mandates are exempted from this. The state came out from the time we originally talked about it and said, well, you can't do a roll-off period of time. Can't be 1 year, can't be 2 years, can't be 5 years. That's fine. The state, they obviously can do that, but they did not address the idea of insurance mandated. And all I'm saying is, let's take that out of the calculation in our town.
So I'm not even necessarily disagreeing, I'm just trying to make sure we're on this, understanding correctly. But why couldn't, if the insurance company mandated new roof, new windows, all that stuff, and that was gonna be more than 50% of their structure, why don't you just do the windows first? Then apply for the,
Because there is no time frame. That amount adds up.
no, I thought it didn't add up. I thought that was,
But,
it doesn't.
you know,
That's what the whole thing is.
Basically, from what our legal counsel has said, you can come in that case, you could do the windows. If it's, under the 50%, once you finish your windows, then you can move on to your roof. And if your roof replacement is under 50%, you don't have to worry about meeting the new FEMA guidelines. And then once that project is completed, the next day you can come in and do your doors or, shutters or whatever you want to do that's going to add to it. That's the way it was explained to me from Mr. Tercivia. Has that changed?
No, that's correct. And again, the risk we're talking about is if you change it and FEMA later says, oh, well, you didn't have the authority to do that. It's the homeowner.
Well, FEMA's a federal regulation.
Right.
Right? So what you're dealing is with the state. So if we just ignore FEMA and go with the state, I mean, do we have to follow FEMA?
Still got to follow both. Theoretically, for the homeowner standpoint, if you follow the state, FEMA should accept it. But,
Well, I don't think the state legislature asked FEMA, they just went ahead and did it,
No,
so.
exactly. So, chatter among, local government lawyers is, are we putting our residents at risk? But there's no choice. I mean, the state says this is the definition.
So,
This is what it's got to be.
so really, it's like the state is saying this, it's not cumulative, but FEMA kind of says that it might be, and that's where the real conflict.
As far as I know, FEMA wasn't asked their opinion when the state passed this
Right.
legislation.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it's wrong. I think that it's
Okay.
a good clarification of what substantial improvement is.
Right.
And any homeowner, any town can now point to and say, this is what the definition is. So everybody's going to be playing with the same definition.
Well, I would just as soon not mess with it if the state is that generous, not generous, but.
Maybe I'm reading this wrong. The way I read this was that, local governments participate not adopt a substantial improvement in repairs to the structure. But there is a 50% rule.
Yeah, and that's the FEMA rule. That's the FEMA rule that says if you go over 50%, you've got to bring it up to FEMA requirements. How do you define substantial improvement?
Right,
they define it, and they don't include all those things. We talked about no drywall, plaster, all those things don't count.
But there is a cap of 50%.
Yes, there is a cap, but
and there is no time period to that cap.
Right. So as I think the manager said, you could put in windows this week at 40% of the value of your property. Finish that job, permit's done, come back into Jack and apply for a roof permit, which is 30% of the value of the property, and you can do that because they said you can no longer have a time frame where you measure 40 plus 30, well 70, now you're over that. So it's like the federal government hopefully is going to accept what the legislature's done by not allowing this rolling period.
Okay, so in essence, though, there is no 50% rule under this Florida legislative law. Is that what I'm
There is, but
if you did a major project.
It's about as loose of a 50% rule, I think, as the legislature. That's why, again, as municipal lawyers talk about it, is like, is FEMA going to accept this? When push comes to shove, is FEMA, and we all have experience with FEMA clawing back money, Everybody says FEMA's going to be there, and then they're there, and then they disappear. So, but we can't control this. The legislature said this is the definition of substantial improvement. Hopefully, FEMA accepts that for some poor homeowner that put the windows in this week and the roof next week and didn't meet FEMA's new requirements. And they say, well, I'm not going to reimburse you because you didn't meet our requirements. But that's a theoretical conversation. It's not really for today. I mean, today, here's the rule they passed. The safest thing is to adopt the state rule. Because again, if you fiddle with the state rule, well, you've just given FEMA another key to say, we don't have to pay.
And I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Town manager.
There was mud, I
Oh,
think.
I just wanted to clarify one issue. We're saying 50% of the property, and that's not correct.
Right.
It's 50% of the structure,
The structure.
so it's 50% of the value of the structure on the property. So you could have $1 million lot and think, okay, well, we're great, but it's the structure that's on the property.
And again, off the record, we were talking about things like window treatments and tapestries and baseboard. You can spend 50% of the value of your structure on all these cosmetic type things easily.
Okay. Sorry. Commissioner Mayfield.
Okay, well, given all that, and if the ordinance is just to get this correct on our books in accordance with state stuff or whatever, I would move approval of ordinance 47225.
And I would second.
Roll call.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrill?
Yes.
Commissioner Pinder?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Titigus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And you'll see this on September 11th under the second reading.
Now we go to resolution number 988-25, 5-year CIP for year 26 adoption.
And I think the resolution is in the book. I'm going to try to get it up on the screen, but I did want to state there is a sheet that needs to be part of the resolution. We went back and listened to the meeting minutes, and you all have approved the CIP. This is a resolution adopting that approval. There might be some modifications just because of the time frame, but we can discuss those when we get into the budget talks. So this matches what we discussed. I think it was the July or the June meeting, correct? June 10th. Thank you.
And the main change is the North Sewell's Point, there was a request to change the North Sewell's Point roadway and separate it. So we have a line that says North Sewell's Point Stormwater Improvements, and we changed that entire line, basically there's 750,000. Remove the rest of the dollars throughout the remaining 4 years. We've added a line below it. You can see joint capital projects. It says North Sewell's Point roadway improvements, and we added TBD, to be determined. So those will need to be determined over the next 5 years, if that is something the commission wishes to pursue.
Vice Mayor.
So I have a question. Why isn't that 750,000 put down in the joint capital projects?
Because we don't have an agreement with the county to move forward with the roadway. So what was discussed at the meeting when we talked about the plan is separating it so we could go ahead and still work on our drainage that we need to within our subdivisions and not deal with the roadway. Basically, the county would do that.
Well, I have to tell you that I'm a little miffed because I wanted to meet with Commissioner Vargas about this, and I want this on the record. And I made an appointment. It took me a week and a half to get through to them, and then it took me 3 weeks to get an appointment with this commissioner. Okay, and when I showed up for the appointment, she blew me off. She's in Philadelphia. And then the comment that I got from her assistant was, well, she don't want to talk to you anyway because she already talked to the town manager and Commissioner Mayfield. And she didn't want to talk to me because of that. And all I wanted to know, and all I really wanted to know was about the North Sewell's Point project.
We were talking about different subjects.
I know. And I left all the paperwork with her, and she still has not responded in any way, shape, or form. So,
Vice Mayor, if it makes you feel any better, I put a phone call into it. It had nothing to do with anything that anybody else has talked about, and I still haven't gotten a call back. She doesn't return calls to Sewell's Point, period. That's the conclusion I've come to. Yeah.
That's why I wanted this number
But
try to be changed, because her answer to me would have made a difference.
But what you can do, you could add, there's actually at least 3 other commissioners that will return your call, and they're very good
One of the
about it.
commissioners I spoke to was he liked the idea that we're doing stormwater treatment and we're
Yes.
willing to do swales. And they would, on the right of ways. So that's why I have the question.
Mayor, just, I think we haven't read the resolution into the record, so I'm going to ask if we have the clerk read the resolution into the record, if that's okay.
Yes, and then Commissioner Mayfield.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Resolution number 988-25, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewell's Point, Florida, adopting the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2025 to 2026 and providing for an effective date and other purposes.
Okay, thank you. So would you say that 750,000, obviously is accurate for the type of projects that Vice Mayor had talked about when we approved this in June? That's the number, and it doesn't necessarily require the county, correct? That's kind of
Well,
on the,
we're
in
looking
our,
at drainage.
but I'm sure there'd have to be some
And
work.
we,
Okay.
I need to work with our town engineer to fine tune that number, but, because that's the original number that we were dealing with on doing a conceptual design that included the roadway. But that's what we had approved back in June. So that's why I mentioned we're probably going to have some modifications with this stipulation that we have in here. So my guess is for the design work, it's probably going to be lower because we're not going to be dealing with the roadway. And hopefully, I know the county did put in $150,000 in their CIP, but it's, it's a small dent to what the town engineers figured it would take for the design of the whole project, so.
Commissioner Titicus.
Yeah. When is have septic sewer in here for 15.2, and what was originally sent out in this package was 7 million. When is the survey going to go out of the 386 homes?
We approved the draft today, and so it'll probably be going out Friday.
Are we going to have an opportunity to see the draft?
Sure, we can send it to you tomorrow.
I'd like to see a copy of it.
Okay.
Because previous surveys have not given people an opportunity to say, no, I'm not interested.
That's the option on the surveys, but I'll get you a copy of it tomorrow.
Streets, bridges, and seawalls. What streets are we talking about? And what bridges are we talking about?
Well, we have 3 that are ours. There's 2 in the Archipelago subdivision, and there's 1 at
Island Road.
Island Road. I'm sorry, not Middle Road, Island Road. Thank you.
Okay, but for the 350,000, what streets are you planning on doing? And what bridges are going to be repaired?
We study that. So right now it's a budgeted amount that we put, but on the street, we look at the street conditions, and that's a joint project between the chief and CapTech. And they do an analysis of the different streets, and then we can publish that so everybody knows that this is what we're going to be doing.
Well, I understand, but in order to come up with the $350,000, that analysis would have had to take place already.
It's a brief, we've gone what we've done in the years past, but a lot of that, the roadways are being worked on through these projects. So that was a number that was supplied to us from our town engineer.
Street lights and signs, where are we on FP&L? Because if FP&L is taking over the street lights, there should be a reduction in the 15,000 that's been in here for the last several years.
When I checked with them last week, it's in engineering with FP&L, so, it's, as soon as it's done, then it goes into the construction side. And, at least, they're going to start in the areas where we're doing our work if the work is substantially completed enough that they can get in and, not ruin the new lights.
And then police cars, there's no reflection of recovery of disposal of the cars that we end up replacing.
Yeah, most of them don't have a value to it. I am going to look in, Commissioner Titigus had mentioned yesterday in our meeting about maybe, looking at the county auction for, our surplus vehicles when we do deadline them. And I haven't had an opportunity to look at it today.
One of the things I will say, if one of those bridges goes, we have those 3 bridges, and I imagine you're probably looking 7 figures if you have to replace one. If the town engineer would probably know better than I would, but that would be my guess, because you're also getting into the seawall, you're getting the bridge, and you're looking at a lot of money. So if you budget so much every year, it's not necessarily going to happen. It's not going to be repaired, but you put it in the budget. So let's say over a 5-year period, you're collecting that 350. Suddenly you realize you have to replace a bridge and you have a $2 million bill. You have the money for it, and it was budgeted. It's like you're putting into like a savings or retirement. That's pretty much, these bridges aren't going to last forever. They have a certain lifespan, and they've been having Band-Aids put on for a number of years. I know the one on Island Road has. That one's had a ton of Band-Aids, and we just keep trying to put Band-Aids, just like with the roads. We have paving. Eventually, we're going to have to pave everything when you go up on River Road. That road's shot. And then you have a lot of these side roads. They're so narrow, you can't have two pickups can't even get by. And the roads are already crumbling. You can look at Emerita, Palmetto, I believe Kingston. They're in pretty rough shape. And I know Palm Road's pretty bad. You could go up and down. I mean, we could spend that money, no problem. But we got to get this project done first, and then we could worry about the side roads. But there's a lot of repairs that we have, and then we've got a lot of unexpected, I shouldn't say unexpected, we have a lot of things that are planned for in the future. We don't know where we're going to be with fire rescue. Let's say after 2029, I know the county's charging $2 million a year. And, these are things, and we're also the only town that includes fire rescue in Martin County within the town taxes. Indiantown, and Jupiter Island, they all put it separate, fire rescue. I don't know why we don't have it separate, and that's something that's at fire rescue is almost as much as to run our police department, but we have no say in the fire rescue. At least we have a say in the police department. So there's a lot of things we have to look forward to in negative ways and positive ways. Also, we got maintenance coming up for once the resiliency project's done, there's the outfalls. The outfalls need continuous maintenance. I know right before I became a commissioner, I was in a meeting, and at that time, we had to remove mangroves, and this was at the old price, and we're looking at tremendous money at the time. Joe would probably remember better than I would, but I remember it was a few $100,000 to remove those mangroves because we weren't doing regular maintenance. Maintenance is important, and this town has failed on maintenance miserably historically, and it's not a matter of just keeping taxes down either. Somebody gave me this over here, but they didn't include the taxes could go up on your home 3% a year, and our home values have tripled since 2012. And there's an article that just got published. So, yeah, the taxes are going to go up because the homes are worth more. So, it has nothing to do with us raising taxes. And there's more things I'll get into, but that's part of the answer on that. There's just a lot of expenses in the future we have to look forward to, and we've got a budget for it. Ooh. Your turn.
I don't disagree with you in terms of maintenance. I think we've been woefully inadequate on maintenance. I've had the opportunity over my life to do a lot of capital budgeting, a lot of budgets. And what I expect with the capital budget is the details behind it. And so, do we need 350,000? Last year this number was $100,000. I have no problem with putting in the $350,000, but I want to know what streets are we planning on doing? What bridges are in what shape and what bridge are we going to be working with? The town manager's been waiting on a report from FDOT for at least 4 months now that has not come through in terms of an assessment that we've done on these bridges. So we have absolutely no idea in terms of how much it's going to cost to repair a bridge. It may be $50,000, it may be $150,000. But at the same time, I would like the detail before I go ahead and approve something. And the last time we brought this up, it was, well, this is just a number, and we may not adhere to that number. Well, if we approve a capital budget, we're basically saying this is what our plan to spend money is. And unless that plan is more definitive, I'm not prepared to approve it.
Well, I'll go one better. I'm going to say that right now our reserves stink. We have $1 million in reserves. The big hurricane comes, hits us. Good luck. It was $1 million 12 years ago. It's $1 million today. What's a dollar worth 12 years ago?
$2.6 million in reserves.
Yeah, but there's different reserves. There's unrestricted, there's capital, there's different reserves. But if the hurricane hits, we should have $3-4 million in those reserves. And, it's $1 million isn't going to put a dent in it. And we're going to be waiting in line. It's just like right now, that point 4 is important. This project stops. We've got all this road over here is going to be done. The road at the south end is going to be done. But then the people in the middle in Kingston, everything are going to be flooded out if the project stops. Right now, we got the point 4 in there for a reason. The point 4 represents us getting, before we put the point 4 in, we weren't getting any of our grants. The point 4 showed we've had some skin in the game. Suddenly we brought another $18 million after that once we got the point 4. And now we're going to eliminate the point 4. We'll never finish the project because we're going to be a joke. They're going to say, they're taking their cards off the table and they want us to give us grants. And it's not going to happen. I've already talked to our Representative Snyder, and I know Gail Harrell and Toby Overruff. They all went to bat for us when we put in that point 4. And also the lobbyists that we hired, they mentioned we have skin in the game at point 4. We ignored that point 4, we're done. The grant stopped, and we didn't commit up to what we said we're going to do. We have a sunset, and we got to finish these projects. If we don't finish the projects, you're screwing the people in the middle over, pretty much from Pineapple all the ways up to Henry Sewell's. So, everything matters. It really does. And the other part is the money we're bringing in, we're talking about phase 4, which helps Cindy Lucas, who's been in here complaining. That's going to help her even more. That's keeping the water from coming down. But once again, we're going to need all this. Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, thank you. Back to the capital improvement plan. Commissioner Titicus, I do agree that sound backup and data is important to make good decisions and to make the best capital improvement plan you can. But I also, this is not the budget, it's a plan, where we have our separate session where we're talking about the budget. And that's, to your point, the part that really matters is that's what we're approving, that the state legislates and all that. I feel like we've come a long way on this capital improvement plan in terms of what I remember from when I first started. Like we've made, I don't remember getting this much detail and working so hard on it. Like we've come a long way. I think it's a sound plan. I agree that maybe ideally that detail is warranted and maybe that can still come, but I would not think that is a reason to preclude approval because it's not the actual budget. Like if you're finding stuff in the budget, then that's the area that I'm like, okay, let's focus on that because that is the important document. So in regards to this plan, I think it's good. I have a question, Mariah. This piece of paper you guys gave us to approve, which is the one we approved last time with the changes we asked for. The one that was in our agenda has, the slight differences in numbers here and there. Is that just just explain to me the difference and because it is the plan as I was referring to, is there anything that we need to add to the one we're approving to make it more accurate to the numbers that you had in the agenda. Let me know if all that didn't make any sense.
Yes and no. Um, So what we did is because the commission approved the capital plan as it
Mhm.
was.
Yes.
With the modifications
Yes.
to the North Sewell
Yes.
Road, we went back to what
That was,
that was
Yes.
done in June.
yes.
With that being said, since that June meeting, as we've gone through the budget process,
Mhm.
there's been changes.
Okay,
That does happen.
Yes.
That happens along the way. The capital improvement plan is what you just said, it's just a plan.
Mhm.
And so originally, I think what I was trying to do was kind of match the budget with the
Correct.
plan.
Right.
In hopes to, kind of have
Right.
to correspond. Seeing that it was going to cause a little bit of confusion.
Right, which it did.
We went the other,
Right.
we went back to what, was discussed in June.
Okay,
There are different, I will say there are a few different numbers in the actual budget, the proposed budget.
Right.
That we do have.
okay,
Some are less.
Okay.
I want to say they're actually, it's pretty much a lot less. When we get to the budget, I can, go over that. and show you
Okay.
What we,
okay.
what we're looking at.
Just to give you an idea, not to steal your thunder, Mariah, but when we look at capital purchases,
Uh-huh.
the police radios, when we looked at this in June, the sheriff's office, who supplies our communications equipment for the police department, we pay for it obviously, but we have to match what they order. They put their purchases out another year.
Okay.
So obviously, one of the changes that we had was moving the police radios into the next fiscal year, 27, and that purchase, and I believe it ended up being like $10,000 more than what we had
Okay.
originally planned. So little tweaks like
Yes.
that come up, and to sit down and analyze them all tonight, I think just going back to what we had talked about and, and approved back in June, we do the resolution, and then if the commission will allow us to present some tweaks during the budget process to the plan, and then we can just come back and readdress it on the meeting on September 22nd,
Okay.
and just approve the new changes to the capital plan as well.
Okay, I think that sounds fair. I'm comfortable with that.
Vice Mayor. Okay. Commissioner Fender.
Just a quick high-level question. Just comparing the two plans from before and today, and I see we've applied a significant amount of savings, maybe $20 million into it, which is nice. But I noticed that we've pulled a lot of costs into the current year. So the current year has actually gone up significantly, which includes the septic sewer that Commissioner Titikus raised. So I just want to ask a real high-level question as to the logic of bringing the expenses forward.
I think what we're realizing with the septic to sewer situation is we don't have the county's support to go in with the grinder units in what we call Part 3, which is basically the River Road section. We do have some on River Road as Part 1, but most of it is in the rest of the subdivision. So to finish it out, which is roughly 356 connections, I think they've modified it from the 366 that we've always been talking about. But, there's a possibility we can get another grant that we had looked for. We had applied for a grant to kind of prepare if we had to do gravity sewers, to supply sewers. But, whatever that decision is, it's going to come back to this commission because it's obviously going to change. We will have some money, I think it's roughly $6 million that'll be left over in our grant funding to do whatever we decide to do in Part 3. And the survey that Commissioner Titigus was talking about was actually a survey where we're trying to find out what the needs are for those people that are in that 366 area of Part 3. So, and that, with that information, we can sit down and make maybe a presentation to the commission with the town engineer and saying, okay, we have X number of dollars here. This is the way that, to get the most bang out of the money that we have left over out of the grant. And,
What part of the 15 million don't we have today?
we don't have, I guess that would be 9 million roughly.
Okay, so it's, we're hoping that we're going to get a grant for the remainder.
Right.
And because this is a plan, it's not
Right.
a budget.
And if we don't, we're going to be left with trying to, search, it's kind of like we've done with the resiliency program. We go out and if, again, with the commission's blessing, we go out and look for money, but we utilize the funds that we currently have under the grant to do what we can do for the residents.
So following that same logic, why reduce the future years? Since we're going to go out searching anyway.
Because the majority of our money in the grant expires in this year. Now we can ask for an extension that's been done historically, but we tried to keep the expenditure in the year that we were doing it.
But we had assumed, just take 2028, for instance, on, I guess that's that's North Sewell's Point Road. That's where it got pulled out.
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies. Understood. Okay, that's fine.
Commissioner Titicus.
I mean, we have a capital improvement plan that's being presented for 27,780,000 roughly. And then if you go to page 111, which is the capital budget that's going to be presented later this evening, there's a part of that capital budget is a capital improvement plan for 18,795,000. And all I'm saying, now, Mr. Daniels characterized that as a tweak. Hate to tell you, but that's a 32% tweak.
That's the same
32% is
chart
a
I'm
hell of a
talking,
lot
we
of
were already talking to.
So I would suggest that if this is what is going to be presented, what's on page 111, then that be presented to the commission.
I would expect this to be replacing that, just like it's replacing this. Wouldn't it be? Because it's the same chart, and you've given us a replacement chart for it, so I assume it's also a replacement chart for that.
Can I
That assumption.
ask a point just related to all this that might help? So, we have the resolution, because it was confusing with the capital improvement plans, the different versions. Is there a reason that tonight we have to do the resolution for the capital improvement plan?
So
And because-
typically you adopt the capital improvement plan, beforehand.
Correct.
But going into the budget, like I said, those numbers can change when you get to, the
Correct.
budget document. In this instance, yes, there was a reduction.
Right.
Part of it was, we know about the septic to sewer situation that needs to come
Right.
back to the commission, to discuss. There was a couple other things that were looked at that were going to be put
Right.
off.
Yes.
So
I guess I'm asking more what has to be done when, as opposed to why things were happening.
I don't think there's any, excuse me for jumping in, but I don't think there's any state law requirement of when we adopt the resolution. It just needs to be adopted as part of the budget process.
Okay.
And historically, what we try to do is break the budget out into different parcels. So hopefully we can discuss that and set it aside and then deal with
Correct.
the remainder of the budget. So if your preference, the commission's preference is to, withdraw this resolution until we get to the September 11th meeting, we can do whatever your wishes are. I don't see any rationale. Is there anything that you know of, Mariah, that I'm
When we
missing?
when we approved it in June, was that just kind of approving it as was to move it to a resolution, or was it a two-part process? It was just kind of like, we vote to move this along.
So the idea was, that was kind of the workshop about it, and then
Yeah.
the resolution
Okay.
back for adoption, and you
And you were just going above and beyond and trying to make it match the budget, since all that time elapsed and things changed, like the septic to sewer and other things. Okay.
And normally, and if you look back at histories and stuff, your capital does change.
Right,
your
I
purchases
understand that.
Do change, so.
I mean, if it really, I don't want to inhibit any of the budget process, but it might make sense to have the one we approve be more accurate, since there are several things, and that septic to sewer is a big, I mean, that isn't a small amount, the 7 million. It all makes sense, and it's one thing, but it's still a big dollar amount. I don't know. What do you guys?
So
No, that's fine.
so I guess here's the dilemma.
Okay.
You've got the one that was in the packet, which matches the proposed budget document. The attachment that was provided matched what was discussed in June.
Right.
I think what the commissioner's suggesting is, why don't we push the resolution back to September 11th and match the budget, which I think is what I'm hearing from the commission. So it might modify what was done in June, because as you said, things have changed. And this way, they've got one chart to look at, they know what we're dealing with, and in the meantime, maybe we can get some of the backup data that Commissioner Titigus has brought up, and I will work hard with our town engineer and see if we can get that data and be able to present that September 11th.
If it doesn't mess anything up, that makes more sense to me.
The question is, what's going to be presented? If what's in the budget package is what's going to be presented, then I think that's what ought to be for us this evening, as opposed to, or deferred for until next meeting. As opposed to approving something and saying, well, we're going to tweak it and we're going to change it.
I agree.
And that's what is in the current packet, is what is in the budget.
And I probably messed everything up, because when I talked to Mariah before, I was like, well, this is confusing, because this isn't what we looked at last time. And so then, because the North Sewell's Point wasn't broken out, blah, blah, blah. So I think it might just be best to make it right and do it like ahead of time. Can you just do it ahead of the budget before, approve it? Okay. Then
Well-
it shouldn't take that long, since we've really talked about it right now.
Yeah, we can put it at the front of the budget hearing meeting, because, we set aside, now at 5:05 to do the budget.
We did.
And then at 6 o'clock, start the meeting, so.
Good idea, Frank.
Yeah, good idea, Frank.
But yes, we can organize the agenda for the budget portion of the meeting
Okay.
and
Okay.
put the resolution there, and I will work with Mr. Capra, Joe, and we will get the specifics as much as we know them at this time.
Okay, so you don't need a vote or anything?
Well, I think we need a motion to table it to the next meeting.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor, I'm sorry.
Question, would that include a possible dollar amount for the design for North Sewell's Point Road?
For the roadway itself,
No, for the retention area and for the swales and things like that.
I think that's what we had included in here, but we can fine tune that number and make sure
Okay.
that that's taking that all into account.
I mean, the only part about it is the raising, the way it says, I like the stormwater improvement part of it.
Right.
When it comes to the other stuff is.
And I think that's what the commission wanted to do, to split it out from the meeting in June.
Right.
I missed that. That was my bad. We didn't have that in this document, so.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Titikus.
I move that we table the CIP
Second.
plan.
The resolution.
Roll call.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Pinder?
Yes.
Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burrill?
Yes,
Commissioner Titigus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now we're going to discussion the 2025 legislation update. Council?
Wait a minute.
Oh.
Budget and brief,
Oh, I'm sorry.
this is paid.
number 5.
Number 5, new business, budget and brief. I am so sorry.
Come on down. We have our finance director / acting town clerk /
So, good evening, Commission and Mayor. Before you is the proposed fiscal year '26 budget for the town of Sewell's Point. Just to go over it as we've done in the years past, we have the letter from the town manager, and we go into the budget calendar, but on page 100 is a couple of the policy issues that the town has done in the past, and we're asking to, continue that.
One of the policy considerations that will be brought up at the September 11th meeting is regarding the millage. The town is recommending to stay at the 3.27 mills. Regarding 2.87 will go for the general fund operations, and then .4 will be dedicated for capital improvements. So we'll bring that forward to you for adoption at the next meeting. In the other policy consideration we had was we previously had approved operating reserves at 500,000, disaster reserves at 1 million, and fire rescue reserves at 400,000. We do know that the fire contract is, coming up for negotiation, and it is an increased cost. So one of the recommendations was to put additional money into the fire rescue reserves. However, we don't do that until after we close the year end and bring back, what we feel is adequate and where we're at with our excess, I don't want to say excess money, but like if we have a little bit of leftover money, how we can put it into reserves for future emergencies. Currently, the fire contract is going to be for fiscal year 2026, 785,000, almost 786,000. That's what we're looking at. It's going up 3% from last year. And that contract will be up for negotiation, and we put it in there. We need to, discuss that prior to fiscal year 27.
Fiscal year 29.
Well, that's, yeah, but we want to start.
We want to start early.
Yes. So the other item is basically focusing on employee retention in a tight labor market. And the recommendation is the 4% in employee wage increase. And then we also recommend keeping the current medical benefits. It was an 11% increase this year. But that's one of those items we're recommending. And we have in here the human resource manual policies regarding like leave accruals and things. There's no budget impact to that, no fiscal impact, but hopefully in the fiscal year 26 we'll be able to bring back our human resource manual, to the committee or to the commission. And then we have our position control and pay plan is also in this document. We have on the next page 101, we talk about the IT upgrade. That's, I think that's going to be pushed off until that's 2027. We're talking about a dedicated server. Then we go into the capital improvements plan. And then two main things that need to be discussed is the South River Road Drainage Project. It's estimated at 2.5 million. And the other one is the septic to sewer project. And there was some discussion there, but that definitely needs to come back, to the commission for some direction on that. And we would hopefully be doing that before the year is over. Not the fiscal year, but before the calendar year is maybe over or early next year. Property taxes. The tax base has increased. So we're just a little over 1 billion as a tax base. If the 2.87 mills brings in a roughly $204,000 additional revenue to the general fund. We are looking at the 0.4 mills bringing in 410,000 for fiscal year 26. This is about 25,000 more than it brought in last year. Keep in mind when you do look at the budget document, we can only budget 95% of our ad valorem taxes. So, and just so people understand, I've got a little chart, and I'll have the little chart for the audience at the next meeting. But basically, the citizens' tax dollar, 20% of their tax dollar comes to the town, for operations and capital. So there is a chart in there that shows the property tax history, not only for our town, but for a few other towns and cities in Martin County. So we have the city of Stewart, we have Ocean Breeze, Jupiter Island, and Indiantown, and then we also have Martin County. So you have that comparison there that you can, refer to. And now we're going to kind of get into the sources and the uses of the budget. So in fiscal year 2023, that's when the town went from one big bucket of money into three different funds. And so we have a general fund, a building fund, and a capital improvement fund. The general fund is basically 56% of the general fund goes to public safety. That includes the police department and the fire services that we get. 44% goes to the operations. That's the town manager, the clerk of finance, insurance, maintenance, park maintenance, all basically operations for the town. The building fund is strictly for building revenues. That's permits come into there, and then expenses that can be basically related to the building fund are expensed out of the building fund. The capital improvement fund is basically for the major capital improvements. And that is funded by our .4 millage, and then we have a couple state revenues that go in there as well. We also put our capital maintenance in this capital improvement fund. So going to page 105, this is a summary of the three funds and the detail of the type of revenues that the town receives. You can see for the general fund, the town is estimating total revenues at 4.1 million. In that, I am going to point out that we do show a reserve utilization of 100,000. That is down from the projection or the budgeted amount from fiscal year 25. So we've got the building fund, total revenues of 520,000. We are showing a reserve utilization of 167 or 176,000 there. The building fund does have the fund balance to cover that. This is primarily due to being conservative on budgeting building permit revenues. So you want to keep that, you don't want to over budget revenues and then balance your budget by a high projected revenue. Then we have our capital fund. And our capital fund, we've got total revenues projected to be 21.7 million. This is primarily the largest amount in there is grant revenues. So this will be dependent on if the expenses are done, because all of our grants are reimbursable grants. So as long as we're spending the money, we should be getting the money back, as long as we have that grant for that. There's a 1.2 million in there that you will see, and that's from the Martin County water line project that we'll be doing. So we pay the contractor and then they reimburse us. There, you'll see at the very bottom, the 410,000, almost 411,000, that is the transfer that will come from ad valorem taxes out of the general fund into the capital to help fund a little bit of these projects. The next page is the summary of the general fund and building fund and capital fund expenditures. And so these expenditures, they match, it is a balanced budget that we're presenting, and total expenditures for the general fund are 4.1, for the building fund are 520,000, and then for the capital fund, it's basically 21.7 million. So that's the summary pages. There is more detail at the very end of the budget document. The next page talks about the fire rescue agreement that we have with the city of Stuart, so you can see that. And then we go to page 108, it talks about the employee retention policies, like I mentioned before, 4% for the employees, and then 11% for the insurance increase. On page 109, we have the position control and paid ranges, and then we also have down below, we have the salary allocations of how they are broken out. So basically, we did make a little bit of a minor tweak on those from previous year, but that's what we're recommending for this year. Page 110 talks a little bit about the capital improvement plan. I'm going to go ahead and over and skip those two pages since we did decide we're going to be, bringing it back for discussion. So we have unfunded items and future items. Currently, right now, we are funding vehicle replacement, and so we're saying approximately 85,000 a year is what we're anticipating. And so I believe we have that going out for the next at least 4 years. The IT upgrade, we've got the, just being able to keep computer replacements going as well as the server that we're going to need to do. And then capital maintenance is another item. We do have a lot of new stormwater infrastructure going in, and so there are going to be those maintenance costs that come along with that. So then we just get into the details. We start with the general fund from page 113, and the general fund goes all the way to page 116, and then we go to the building fund. Trying to point out a couple larger things. I already discussed the reserve utilization on page 113. It's down 47%. Once again, this is just a budgeted item. If our revenues come in higher, if our expenses come in lower, this dollar amount could change. At this point in time in fiscal year 25, I do not foresee the town utilizing any reserve utilization for this current fiscal year. So the budget's broken down by the different departments, and you can see the detail by executive, by finance, the legal, the debt service, the government services, the police department, fire services, and that's it. I know one of the questions is in professional services, it is a large dollar amount. We do have contracted things that we pay for. This includes, our communications folks. We've got a little bit of money in there for a possible grant writer, if we're going to utilize a grant writer to do a grant. We have in there, we have our, for our AV system and stuff, we have money, for that. So that's what that dollar amount is for. Our audit services dollar has gone up because I am anticipating we're going to have a single audit next year, which is going to entail more hours for the auditors. I don't think, so that's that. Legal counsel is a little bit up, but that's just due to possible litigations. We've had some litigations this year. There's possible litigations for next year, so we've upped that a little bit. We have the debt service, which is for our property out at 78 South Sewell's Point Road. So that's what we have to pay annually. And then we go into government services. And I don't think there's not much really there. Town hall equipment. There's two things in this item. Town hall equipment, we've got $25,000 for a fountain, a replacement fountain out across the way. And then we also have $25,000 in there for a possible, like sign thing. So
Electronic sign.
Electronic
so we
sign.
get our message out.
I was trying to think of a fancy word, but yes. Yeah. Then we move to the police department, and the police department is budgeted to be fully staffed, and so with that, the question is regarding like the health insurance. When we have vacant spots, I budget that at the full amount because we never know when we have a new employee start if they're going to, where they're going to fall
Family
with it.
coverage or not.
Yep. So we've got that. That's pretty much what you can see the vehicle in there. There's some equipment in there for the police department, and other than that, just the very bottom, you can see we're transferring almost $11,000 from the general fund to the capital fund. So, are there any questions?
Vice Mayor.
Would now be the proper time to, excuse me, to go into the legal appropriations? Okay. I'd like to see how we have our legal counsel broken down, BZA, CEB, litigation, police union matters. I'd also like to see it broken down to commission and then also representing the town. Now,
Okay.
in the charter, it says that actually the attorney works for the commission. And yet, if we use the attorney for the town, there's no breakdown on that, doing town business rather than commission business. So I'd like to see a breakdown on that. For instance, we had a big BZA thing that went 7 hours or whatever. I'd like to see the breakdown of something like that as compared to, so I guess it's an invoice issue.
Is that,
No problem. I think we do that to some extent on invoices. I'm not sure if it's showing in the budget, but I think when there's a project, we'll bill it under that big project number. Like I'm pretty sure I think 7 Morgan Circle was a separate invoice. I think we pulled it out. Once it gets more than just an hour or two, you pull it out so you can see it. And I think we also have separate invoices for police matters.
we do.
Like for PBA negotiations.
Right,
we
so
have-
why don't we have one separate invoice for the commission meetings?
Right, do you want to have one just says commission meetings?
Yeah, or
Could do that.
commission, in other words, if a commissioner calls you and you're billing the town, I guess you should put that towards the commission. Okay, rather
do
than
that.
the town.
And so we can, currently it all goes under general. So,
I'll
you know,
start that with the new fiscal year, October 1st.
October 1st.
October 1st forward, we'll just have another category that says commission. And
Okay.
it'll mostly be commission meetings, but it could be communications with commissioners individually or anything else like that.
Right, and then if there's something else, like the BZA comes up and you're representing your town, that's something, that's another matter.
Do that.
That
Yeah.
wouldn't be part of the commission.
Right. Okay.
How about the police union? You deal with the police union too, Glenn?
We have that, that's a separate, I
That's
think
a
you get like
separate-
3 or 4 separate invoices every.
Yes.
We do try to break it down.
Yep.
Um,
We do. In our legal budget, we show general, BZA, CEB, so basically building zoning adjustment, and then code enforcement board. We have litigation, and then we have police union matters. So that's just,
So we're going to add one more category.
we're going to add
Looks
one
like
more
this is gonna
category
say
as commission.
Commission.
So, commission and town.
What was the second?
So town would be probably under general. It would just stay under general.
Well, why don't we just carry it over to that as well? To this, in the same category, so that we don't have to look into general, we can see it right here, on appropriation.
What I'm hearing,
For a breakdown of
No,
how
no,
much
you say
is,
she's calling the town general.
yeah,
So the town will be general, everything else will be defined otherwise.
but will that be put in this category? Is what I'm asking.
I think what the vice mayor is talking about is having counsel for the commission only, and then counsel, like when we have a legal question, for the town hall staff. And I think that's what he's proposing.
Yeah,
to the
and what he mentioned when you stepped out a second is, so attending commission meetings, conversations or emails with commissioners would be a commission category every month. And I'm thinking it's going to be a relatively small category because commission meetings are generally a couple hours a month. So, but it'll at least break it out to show what's directly with the commission. That's what
You
you're
haven't been to a meeting lately.
Pardon me?
Yeah. And then what I'm really trying to get is how much are we spending on legal issues from the town as compared to how much we're spending from the commission? It's just a
Mhm.
breakdown. The dollar amount,
Yeah, I could do that. Starting October 1st, we'll set another category in our billings.
Okay. Does that suffice?
we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. You don't, we'll see routine.
Commissioner Tidigas.
And I know we talked about this the other day, and I'm still a little bit unclear. If you go to general fund revenue,
What page?
now you're on page 113. So discretionary sales tax restricted, which is 107,042. And there's no projection for that into 2025.
Page number up, Mike.
And
Sorry.
when we talked about it, you had indicated, Bob had indicated, this was the half-cent county sales tax that got approved recently. Does that come to our town, or does that go into a pool that the county?
No, this is money that the town actually receives. And so it is restricted dollars and can only be spent on certain item, like capital improvement items. So
For infrastructure,
for infrastructure.
right? And it comes from Tallahassee to us. It doesn't go through the county.
No, I
Okay.
understand.
Okay, sorry.
They collect it, and then they redistribute it, go in some formula that comes into a black box and pick it up. But, so could we get the wording in terms of what that money is to be utilized for, so that
Sure.
pretty good idea? And then the other question is, and I asked you this the other day, but this is for the benefit of the commission. Are we going to set up a separate reserve fund for that, or do you plan on moving within that general reserve?
So it's going to be restricted. I believe the best way to do it is actually going to be to put it in the capital fund as a restricted dollar amount. And so it will have its own, just like you have the fire, like in the general fund, we have, 3 lines. When you look on the balance sheet, you have actually 3 different lines that show what the restricted dollars amount. That would be the same way that we would do that. And then, then the commission would have to decide, how we're going to utilize that money. So in some sense, just kind of the same way with the .4 mils. So. Yeah. Okay, so, well, any other questions regarding general fund? Okay, so going to the page 117, you can see the proposed budget for fiscal year 26 for the building fund. We're projecting to use 176,000 of the fund balance. Like I've said before, the fund does have adequate balance to do that, to balance this budget. This may not be the case dependent upon the amount of permits that come in and the type of permits that come in. But we did take a conservative approach with budgeting for permit revenue. We have, if you go to the expenditures, I'm allocating, I shouldn't say I, but the town is allocating more money for insurance in the building department. 90% of the traffic that walks into this building is for building, and so it's easily justified for that. And you will see that there is an increase in the salaries and wages and things, and that was due to the reallocation of the town manager's time and a little bit of my time. So, are there any questions regarding the building fund? No? Okay. The capital fund. So on page 118, you'll see the revenues that we're proposing to receive is 21.7 million. Tried to do the best estimate regarding the grants that we have, what's going to be left over to still come in. You will see, and I know this was a point of discussion, septic to sewer, I do have 7.2 million in there. That is the amount that is still remaining to be spent from that septic to sewer grant. We do, for part 2 of the septic to sewer project, I think it's 1.2, maybe 1.3 we'll be using, so it's going to leave $6 million to be spent. As it was discussed before, this is going to have to be brought back to the commission once we kind of have an idea of where we're going or what we can do. So that was one of the differences that was, talked about earlier. I'm showing the legislative appropriation at 1.7. That's what we currently have. That is reimbursable as well. We do not get that until we spend it. And I think we have that scheduled to be spent with phase 2. So just everybody's aware of that. And you can see the 1.2 million Martin County water lines. So going over to the expenses, we have money budgeted for engineering expense and landscaping expense. So the town does have a contract for landscaping. We take care of the right-of-ways and the parks and different things, but parks and general fund, the other portion is in this. Down below for stormwater, we've got engineering services as well, and then we've got outfall maintenance. Once again, we did budget $100,000. I know you could say, well, we've only spent, close to 37. We're still going to be figuring that out as we, take on the new facilities. Stormwater improvements is 19.1 million. That's all the projects lumped together. They were broken out in the capital improvement portion of that. And then down below, I think the biggest number there is we did put in 300,000 for street maintenance. There is the idea that we are going to have to overlay, maybe a street or two due to the current project that's underway as our streets are getting torn up. So, but the reserve addition is 1.5, and I know I was asked, where does that come from? That's basically going to come from the grant revenues that I've spent, or the town has spent, in this year that we won't be receiving until, next year. So that is that. So that is the proposed budget for 2026.
Okay.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Thank you. I have a quick question. And by the way, good job. You did a great presentation.
Thank you.
And I think our budget has improved also over the years. We are doing better. So thank you. On the building fund expense, there's audit services for 5,000, and it looks like we spent some this year. But there's also the general fund audit services. And since I was just on the audit committee, is the building fund a different audit? That's not the, why is it 40? I don't remember that.
We just split the amount up and allocate it because it's an expense that you have with the building.
No, I guess I'll have to go back and look. I didn't think it was that high, the 35,000 plus 5,000 for audit for a year.
Well, the 5,000 is the building. We were also going to have
There's a single audit.
The single audit. I think the single audit was
Okay.
We're
Okay.
looking at
Yeah.
additional hours for that.
All right, maybe I'll have to go back and look. But, okay.
It's good getting grant money, but you also have to pay money.
I remember the single audit thing, but.
And one of the things that is new to this budget is the percent change column.
Yes.
I don't know if that was,
Yes.
so.
And we'll have our pie charts and everything else, so you can see it better visually.
Yes. So,
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you, Mariah.
Thank you.
Now we go up to legislative update.
Okay, this is going to be very brief because I'm sure you've been hearing this all over the place. League of Cities has been putting out multiple blasts about this. The theme is the same that it's been for a long time. The legislature is doing everything they can to hurt local governments. So again, they, passed Senate Bill 180 that restricts your ability to do anything that's going to be more restrictive, like in your comprehensive plan. So for example, a number of cities had comprehensive plans that have been submitted already months ago. And we've all been getting letters back saying, this comprehensive plan is invalid because it doesn't comply with the new law because it unduly burdens land. I guarantee you, nobody read any of those comprehensive plans. That's a form letter that every city's getting. I mean, I've got at least 4 of them so far in 2 weeks. So That's the message that they're sending is, we don't want you to control your own destinies. We want to restrict what you can do. You can't pass anything that's going to unduly burden any property in your town. So your ability to do comp plan amendments, your ability to do land use and zoning is just continually being squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. It's like the Godfather movies, we're just going to keep squeezing until the lemon just has no juice left in it. And then, I don't want this as a prediction, but 50 years from now, there might only be 3 cities in the state of Florida. Miami, Jacksonville, Orlando, and Tampa, maybe 4. So that's the legislative update. I don't want to be a downer, but we keep seeing this year after year after year, everything they can do. They're talking next year about changing the sovereign immunity limits, which they've done. They've talked about for years. They haven't done that yet. They're talking about property tax. You all know that there may be some, limitations, restrictions on local government's ability to levy property taxes, which is the lifeblood of all towns. Every local government relies on property taxes. So just stay tuned, keep in touch with your local representatives. The other thing that was interesting, I heard a presentation about this, is the number of legislators who are either former elected officials locally or attorneys has plummeted in the last couple of years. Form 6 wiped out a bunch of attorneys because nobody wanted to disclose their clients' financial information before Form 6 got knocked down by federal courts. And then I know in Palm Beach County, I think there's 13 or 14 elected representatives. Only one was a former city commissioner or mayor, where 15 years ago, half the delegation were people who grew up through the ranks. You'd be a commissioner for a few years, then you'd run for state rep, then maybe run for state senate. That path has changed a lot. So we don't have a lot of people up there that know what it's like to sit in your chairs and know what it's like to wrestle with local issues. So I'm not encouraging you all to run for the state senate or state rep, but you may want to think about it or think about encouraging people to do it, because unless they've walked in your shoes, how do they really know what are the local issues that you deal with?
I don't think they care.
I think you're right.
They just don't care.
I think you're right. I think they just don't care. I mean, you, if anybody, you were in town like 8, 9 years ago. You were the hometown hero, I think, 2 or 3 years in a row. And you can probably tell better than anybody how much the attitude up there has changed in the last 10 years.
You saw it too, I'm sure. When
You've been up there a lot too.
Yeah.
I think you both, but you see the same thing, and it's disheartening.
It's terrible. It's terrible. They just lean against their desk and they look at you and they, yeah, and they smile. And the minute you walk out, boom, right in the garbage bin.
So do what you can to advocate, talk to local folks, and hopefully just hold the line at this point. I mean, I don't think anybody's thinking we're going to get anything positive, but if we just hold the line on all these, quote, reforms, that'd be a victory. On that happy note, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. We're into staff and commission comments.
On that note, obviously home rule has been diminished every year. And, it's one of the things that, we push for when we go to the conferences with the League of Cities, and usually you hear the issues of the bigger cities getting addressed, but it's the small towns that tend to get kicked around. And so, both myself and the vice mayor will be attending the League of Cities meeting in Orlando. I believe it's Wednesday through Saturday. I'm going up on Thursday and catching the committee meetings and so forth.
As in tomorrow, right?
Yeah, Wednesday is in tomorrow,
Yeah.
yes. So, but it's important that we do have an involvement there and keep reminding an organization that thrives on the small jurisdictions, but yet when there's things that happen that affect us negatively, like doing away with ad valorem taxes, because that's our major source of funding, they have to realize the impact that it has on smaller communities. And so, even though it's an organization that's promoting cities, statewide, we tend to get lost in the shuffle. And there's more of us than there is in the big cities. So I think, it's an important thing that we have to stress. Um, as you see today, our microphones have worked. It was a Band-Aid approach. We still are past the useful life of the equipment that we have. We do have a quote and, look at spending close to $25,000 to upgrade the equipment, but I think that's necessary. We need to be able to broadcast the information out through, our sources and YouTube and so forth, and our website streaming, and also within this, chambers, to be able to make sure that everybody that's here can hear us. Can you hear us? Okay, good. So, but we have to keep going that way. So it's an investment that I think will pay off in time, and we don't have to worry when we come in here and turn everything on that it's not working. So one important thing when we talk about government and the changes, and I'm sorry I'm going to be a little long, so I apologize, but it's the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. And I call them doggy because I spell it, and of course my love for four-legged animals. But anyhow, but they are in the process, as we know, not only of auditing towns and cities, auditing up in Tallahassee. And currently, right now, if they're with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, a group that we worked hand in hand with in doing our projects, not only the septic to sewer projects, but we also are using funding for phase 3 in 2 of the sections of phase 3 that comes from DEP. Unfortunately, because of requirements that they did not follow, and we are feeling the brunt of that. And the last 2 or 3 weeks, Mariah, myself, the town attorney's office, we've all been working with trying to get things modified and changed so we can start getting our reimbursements again. But currently, we're in a crunch. And so we've been reaching out to our legislative delegation and seeing what they can do to help us. Our lobbyist that's up there, and we're trying to also give them the documentation as soon as we can get it when they tell us what they need. So I mention that because yesterday I got a disturbing email from FEMA, which is the national, so the federal side, and they're getting dealt with DOGE up in Washington, D.C. And so they're holding back reimbursements that we need. And so we're not talking about small amounts of money. With FEMA, we're talking about 2.4 million. With DEP in Florida, we're talking about 2 million. So those are big hits. And I know we talked about funding our projects for the cash flow through our reserves, but I also want to make sure that we're protected there. So we're doing an analysis, but we might have to look at, maybe borrowing some money to make sure we can get through the cash flows. Hopefully it won't come to that, but I do want to obviously let you all know that this is an issue that we have. We're working on it, and hopefully, at least the commitment that I got from FEMA is we might see some relief from the FEMA side on Friday. But again, they're dealing with it, and it all depends on what the direction is from their bosses. So even though it looked like, hey, we're in, we don't have to worry about it, we have enough money for the project between the grants and the matches and everything else, it does have a setback to us. And in turn, that also sets back when we start our next projects. And like, the part 2 of, we're scheduled to start in August, and now we're looking at starting it in September for the septic to sewer. And then also phase 2, which is, also needed, especially on Riverview and South Sewell's Point Road. That's an area that floods a lot. And, and I know we've been promising those people that we're going to get it, we're going to get it, we're going to get it. Now we're in a situation where we've been waiting for the last review from FEMA to allocate the funding there, but of course, that could be delayed. So I don't want to send us in off tonight in a negative mood, but, I do want to make sure that you all are aware of what we're dealing with and effectively doing it. And if things tend to look worse, I might have to ask that we, maybe have another meeting to get together and look at some options that we can propose for you to look at. That's the worst case scenario. So, but I did want to make sure that I mentioned that to you. The couple of things that I'm going to be involved with this next year, one of them I was last year, the legislative committee, and I believe that the vice mayor also will be attending the legislative committee meetings. One of them is during the conference that we're going to this week, and then they have meetings in October, November, and December. They're in Orlando. For the most part, I try to drive up in the morning and then drive back at night. But there are minimal expenses that way. And then in the December, it's a 2-day meeting, so there is an overnight stay. But I wanted to mention that to you, along with an opportunity that I have. The International City Managers Association has their meetings all over the country, and also out of the country. They've been to Canada and so forth. Obviously, I can't justify going to a meeting that's out of state and, the expenditures involved. But they do have a meeting in October, their annual meeting in Tampa. So I'd like to put together an idea of what the expenditure is, but if you all don't have a problem with that, I'd like to attend that meeting, because who knows when I'm going to have that opportunity again. So in my agreement, it covers the in-state meetings that we normally go to, the FCCMA and League of Cities and so forth. But this is really a specialty one. And if I don't hear any, problem with it from the commission at this point, I'll go ahead and do the registration. We could always withdraw it and, and with timely notice to them. But if you guys are okay with that, and I'll let you discuss that or talk about it as you please. So, also the legislative committee meeting in December is a Thursday, Friday meeting. So I just wanted to let you know what that is. We have an RFP out for our debris management and debris. So, if we have a storm, we're going to updating it. There was a contract that's due. So that's all part of our process. And I think, probably by the end of the week or the beginning part of next week, we'll have the RFP out for our grant writers. And I think I mentioned it to everyone, but I'll repeat it because I think good work needs to get recognized. We obviously had a grant come up with phase 4 for our resiliency program, and it's a FEMA grant through HMGP, and we didn't have a grant writer in place. So we actually, with the assistance from CapTech, but with the majority of the work falling on the shoulders of Mariah, and she did an excellent job putting that document together, and hopefully we're successful, and so I did want to acknowledge that. I think the starting amount was 4 million, was it?
No, we went for 8.
8 million, okay.
The one submitted last month.
Yes. So, and you got a copy of it, correct? Okay, good. So, yeah. So again, all that, who knows where we're going to be in the land of Doge. So, but that's, I appreciate your cooperation with everything. We've gone through kind of a hectic couple months, and I think we're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel, at least in what we're getting. And obviously with having Kim on board, I think is going to just, be an asset to our operations. So I've spoken enough. I apologize, but I did take some notes, and I will go through and make sure that the items that we need will be available for the next meeting, if not sooner.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to Glenn for the legislative update because it's surprisingly hard to get something like that if you're just on the web and be like, summary of Florida laws. It doesn't, so thank you for that. That'll be quick reference for me. And Vinny and Bob, thanks for going to the League of Cities conference this weekend for representing us.
Should be interesting.
And then I am good with you going to the ICMA conference in Tampa. I think that'll be worthwhile. That's it.
Commissioner Fender.
I'll go next. I'll go last.
Vice Mayor.
Well, how close are we to being in real trouble with FEMA?
I'm sorry.
How close are we to being in real trouble with FEMA?
Well,
That at all?
I think hopefully, like I said, I spoke with our program manager, and she hopes to have it resolved by this Friday.
Okay.
So, but any, length of time that they hold up our reimbursements, and
I've been through that already.
yeah,
I understand. I just concerned that here we are fighting with FEMA to get money, and we put in for a grant.
hmm Well,
It's like,
yeah, I can explain it. The grants are on a timetable with FEMA for the HMGP grants. They're storm related. So this was actually Hurricane Milton, when we obviously had some tornado activity within our community and the Treasure Coast and so forth. And so we were able to do it, but there was a time deadline on when we had to get the grant in. So we didn't know the problems we were going to have with, those two entities, DEP and FEMA, at the time we put the grant in. So that was actually, I think, in the beginning part of July or June. So my memory is shot tonight, so I apologize. But that's the rationale for it. Obviously, if, we're going to have a problem and, with the reimbursements, and we're probably not going to go that route.
okay, so that would be the same kind of grant that we've already had.
Right, that we have for phase 3 and phase 2 and phase 1.
Well, we could be in trouble here. Okay.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yep.
Commissioner Titicus.
No, it's all right. You can go ahead.
A couple of things. One, thanks for agreeing to the budget workshop. I think when you listen to Mariah's presentation, you kind of did a quick overview of the numbers. It's a pretty complex document, and it deserves a little bit more time than we would give it at the meeting. The other thing I have a question about is back in, I think it was either April or May, when we had we approved tipping into the reserves to cover the gap between when we pay a contractor and then when we get the money back from the grant agency. We discussed state revolving fund application. And at that time, I think Mariah said it was a pretty lengthy process in order to get approved, and we asked that that get started. Are we working on that?
I'll be honest, no. Once again, that is a reimbursement. I did verify that is a reimbursement process. So that's where basically I touched base with him, and you have to spend the money first.
And then get it back.
And then you get it back. With that being said, I have had agencies that basically they kind of do the same thing. They look at it and there might be an expense that they don't approve of. And so now you've spent that money and you could get reimbursed or you couldn't. So it wasn't 100%, a guarantee for funds as well. Our biggest issue is having the cash up front to pay the bills, to pay the contractor. That's where our issue lies. We don't have a big enough pot of money. We don't have $10 million in the bank that is just there to spend and then get reimbursed on.
I understand. Are there any other state funds? Because they have several out there that could act as a quote-unquote bank rather than go into a bank. And I think that Bob mentioned that we may have to go to a bank to borrow some money. Are there any state agencies that we can borrow something from at a lower interest rate than what we would end up paying at a commercial institution?
I don't know, but I can look into it. In fact, at the League of Cities conference is probably the best place. I can, do some research.
Yeah, I think we need to, anyway, pursue that. The other thing, a couple of other items. One-man delay yard repair. We approved this in February. Hasn't been done. What's happening?
Or, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to? Okay. It's basically, we're trying to get the contract from Cheatham. And it's in, we have the unit prices that were part of, what the bid was. So we know what it's going to, an idea of where it's going to cost, but without him agreeing that he's going to do the work. And that's kind of what we were hoping to do is, since he's already there, you're not going to have the fee that they always charge customarily for, setting everything up and MOT and all that, because we basically have it all in the area, what he needs. So we're hoping for the cost savings there and just basically taking the unit prices and, hopefully matching that. Have I said that correctly?
So we're attempting to do and trying to keep it in the contract authority with Cheatham.
I mean, this is drug on for 5 months.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this has been going on for quite a while.
Yeah.
I mean, if Cheatham doesn't want the work,
The other thing is,
know.
we also approved in February, speed bars on South Sewell Point Road. And 5 months, they're not there yet. I mean,
Yeah, I forgot about that.
any reason for that?
No, but I'll check on it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Fender.
Yeah, all right, just a couple things. I just wanted to circle back around to Ally Hooker's request at the beginning of the meeting. As we discussed last meeting, and I'm not sure how it got off track, but it ended up in the BZA. I wasn't able to attend the BZA meeting, I think.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, and so I just want to be sensitive to that environment, that issue. I think the guy building the house there is going to build an amazing estate, but I've got dragged back down there to look again, and my only concern, and hopefully Jack will help us here, is just pushing that wall back away from the water. That's all I care about. Ally's never going to get everything she wants, but I'm more caring about the beach line, really. And I think he's going to build an amazing house there. To me, I don't even care if he gets his infinity pool, but I don't want it right on the water. I'd like to see that beach protected as much as possible. I know I've heard he might give a few feet. I'd like you to try to get 10 if you can get it, so. But anyway, that, and didn't hear it come up, and probably maybe I missed it, but in the whole budget cycle, I know we've got the town manager review due this week, or coming up quick. We had a meeting a while back, and I don't recall the impact of salary in the budget for town manager. Did we have that discussion? Was that decided upon?
I mean, I'm not staff, but I can give you my best answer. I think that, they said there was a 4% raise, and that's in the budget
Yeah.
for everybody.
I think
And
it's
then,
no contract, though.
right, I think they put in the budget what a reasonable
I thought we
increases,
did
and then,
actually
no,
approve something.
no, I don't think,
Did
no.
we?
And so then we
Okay.
have not, no, and then I actually was talking to the town manager about this, and that our evaluations are separate, but those are due by Friday.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be on the agenda in September 11th, correct? Your contract and.
Well, the evaluation.
The evaluations
Right.
and your contract, correct?
Well, the key thing is if the commission decides that they want to do any market adjustment to my salary. And
My question's really, is it in there? I mean, do we have the wiggle room to do anything that we might want to do?
I asked more, I think there's a general, the given increase, that, what's in the budget? That's what,
So, I did not put an additional, we did, I'm sure, I mean, we've got,
Okay, well, that's fine. I'm just throwing it out there to make sure you're thinking about it,
Make
yeah.
an adjustment if the commission wants to maybe give me an idea of how much we're looking at.
Well, in all fairness, you know, and again, I don't want to interrupt you all from talking about this, but I have to put my manager hat on and just say, you know, I think that discussion needs to be something we post on an agenda, and the September 11th meeting probably being a budget meeting, and you know, getting some information there, and then going
All
ahead
I'm
and
saying is it didn't come up in the conversation today in pre-budget and brief. So as we pursue.
right, it would be an addition.
Maybe it's something to at least see.
I
what the
think
line
since the contract is separate, I think that it would be good to have on the agenda in September 11th meeting, since we had the discussion earlier in the year about it. So I think it'd be good.
That's all I got.
All right.
I think Mariah might have had something.
I was just gonna say, I don't think the contract is up for renewal. It's just it would just be the wage determination.
Right, because we had a whole issue earlier in the year, and we talked about doing it around budget time, if I remember correctly, so.
That's why I'm just trying to bring it back out there. Yeah.
When is the contract up for renewal?
I don't think.
It's not.
It's not.
I don't think there's
An
such a.
evergreen?
You know, 3 votes and I'm packing out the door, so.
Okay. Okay. One of the things I received was from one of our residents about our taxes over here. One of the, I know I just have an article, I could actually forward an article to you. Sewell's Point, our property values have increased since it was, I think it was 2010 to present. We're number 21 in the state of Florida. And from, I think it's 2020 to where we are today, I'm sure we're higher up. So I looked at the other places, we're probably in the top 10. And part of the reasons that this is a little bit higher is our property values have gone up. So your tax bill's going to go up. We've exceeded most of Martin County, except for Jupiter Island. Their values have gone up greater than ours. But in the article, it says part of the reason that people are attracted to us is because of the greenery and the way we enforce our rules. And they feel comfortable, and that's the reason why a lot of people have replied to this. It has to do with enforcement. And I'm going to forward this to you, Bob. I got the article.
Okay.
And, you know, we're going in the right direction, obviously. And this is because our homes have gone up. I mean, how anybody that bought a house here, maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, for 500,000, now it's you look, it's worth 1.5, 1.6.
Don't cut down your trees.
Yeah, then don't cut down your trees, exactly. But that's the reason for this.
Plant more.
Well, and on the other side too, we've also heard of somebody buying a house, you know, 2 years ago for $4 million and just sold it for $8 million. So, so it just, and some of the feedback that, you know, Jack's been getting, that, you know, there's going to be more larger houses, so that we're going to see in the future. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's
Commissioner Mayfield.
you brought up about tree. There was a little hubbub on the street from some residents that oak tree was cut down. But I believe the person had a certified letter from an arborist. And so if anybody's asking about that, that is why that occurred. And I don't think Jack heard me, but. Well, it's not a loophole, it's the state law.
So
Okay, Frank.
let's enforce our rules. That's what I heard. And let's try to.
I mean, I don't like
Try to
it.
Talk them out of it. How about that?
Well, ideally, but nobody knew it was going to happen.
Please talk them out of it.
Is there any chance we could ever have our own in-house arborists that would come in and examine the trees themselves?
and
Oh,
disagree.
you know what, no, actually, I'm glad that you said that, one of the residents was asking, and I'm sure you don't know the answer to this, Glenn, because how could you, but it's, the state law is you have a certified letter that's from a letter saying the tree is dead from a certified arborist, correct? Then you don't have to get any permission from anyone, you can cut down the tree. What if someone tries to say that, no, the tree wasn't dead? I mean, is there how do you even try to
You're going to get in a fight among arborists?
Yeah, I don't, or like, yeah, I don't know.
This is just another example of the legislature doing what they do to local cities, which is, yeah, you want to protect your trees? Nope. As long as
Yeah.
somebody gets an arborist that says that tree's dead, dying,
Yeah.
It's all about the dollar.
take it out.
Yeah.
And,
I'd like to point out that this commission used that loophole in saying that the tree on Heritage could be cut down.
Not the whole commission.
No, that was also the footprint thing.
Enough for that to get approved. Okay, maybe not the whole.
No, because that loophole is for for property owners, and yeah, that's.
Yeah, the
That
good
was-
part is.
The tree's still there, though.
Yeah, the tree is still
If
there.
you're still
right
on the
now.
property,
And if you're,
Sold the property.
if you have, I believe if your house is going to be built on where a tree is, you are allowed to cut down that tree per our ordinances, correct? I'm digressing. I'm digressing, yeah.
But they would have to mitigate it.
Yeah, they'd
It's
have to
part of
mitigate it, yep.
part of the house site. They would have to mitigate it.
Vice Mayor,
all I could say is this all started with one legislator who decided that he wanted to cut down a tree, and the town told him he could not cut down the tree. So he went back to Tallahassee and changed the law so he could cut down every tree he wanted on his property.
Isn't that wonderful? Right?
And he did the same thing with the rental thing. He wanted to buy a house here on the East Coast, he's from the West Coast, and he wanted to use it as a rental. Well, they told him he couldn't because you can't do rentals in this particular town. Well, he went back to Tallahassee and he had the law changed. Now you could do all the rentals.
I love how people move
So-
to a town because of what it has.
Yeah, and then
Let's
they want
change
to
it
change
to
it.
That's it. I mean, that's how we get all of these rules.
Yeah.
So,
Move for adjournment.
second.
David,
Neighbor said about that tree.
which one is?
It's on Middle Road with the house. Yeah.